Good morning, friends. We've prayed morning prayer, and now it's time to jump into First Samuel. We're going to complete First Samuel this morning. We have 3 chapters left, 29, 30, and 31 of First Samuel. Yes, 3 chapters, 55 verses. We can do that. That's not bad at all. 55 verses, that'll get us through the end of First Samuel. Please to take a moment to post a greeting, share a comment, let us know that you're here with us this morning. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, Mom. I also encourage you hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so yet, and feel free to share this with anybody you think would benefit from this, including the channel in general. So, friends, let's look at the big picture here. Let's see how this all ends before we jump in and read how it ends. At some point in the future, we'll get to 2 Samuel. We're not going to do so right away. But we'll get there. Let's focus in on 1 Samuel and specifically the ending here. Chapters 29, 30, and 31. There's nothing here about 29 and 30, and well, 31 kind of speaks powerfully for itself. You know who that is. Any doubt, just follow the line up here and over. Saul's lifeline. Yeah, that's Saul. By the end of chapter 31, the king is dead, killed in battle. And so's Jonathan. And it all sets the stage eventually for, in 2 Samuel, the rise of David, which has been ongoing, but now will become official. So let's read, friends, and let's complete 1 Samuel. Chapters 29, 30, and 31. I'll be reading from the left-hand column, Complete Jewish Bible. Right-hand column has the text is found in the updated edition of the NRSV. And we're not going to use a timer today because I already know going into this, we're going to finish it off. It's not a matter of time. It's 55 verses, 3 chapters. We're going to finish this off. I'll use the right-hand column primarily to explain moments when things don't sound familiar to our Christian ears from Jewish biblical language. Like right off the bat here. Let's take a look at a couple of these, which are on the screen already. The Plishtim, yeah, that's the Philistines. There's some moments when it's like hooked on phonics instead of actual substantial, like affix, affix. One uses an F and one uses a PH, which, hello, is an F. Yisrael, that's just real. Akish, Akish, that's the same. Shaul, that's King Saul, Shaul, Saul. So yeah, there's a few things like that. And we may come across more. Let's read and finish off First Samuel. The Plishtim gathered all their army together at Aphek, while Israel's army pitched camp by the spring in Yisrael. The leaders of the Plishtim were passing by with their hundreds and thousands. David and his men were bringing up the rear with Achish. The chiefs of the Plishtim asked, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" Achish answered the chiefs of the Plishtim, "This is David, who was a servant of Shaul, king of Israel. He's been with me now for well over a year, and I haven't found anything wrong with him between the time he deserted to me and now." But the chiefs of the Plishtim became angry and said to him, "Have the man return and go back to the place you set aside for him. Don't let him go into battle with us, because on the battlefield he might become our enemy. What better way could there be for him to get reconciled with his Lord than by cutting off the heads of our men?" This is David. They used to dance and sing about him. Shaul has killed his thousands, but David is tens of thousands. So Achish summoned David and said to him, "As Adonai lives, you have been upright, and I myself would be more than pleased to have you go on campaign with me, because I haven't found anything wrong with you between the day you arrived and now. However, the chiefs don't trust you. Therefore, now go on back and go in peace, so as not to do what appears bad to the chiefs of the Plishtim." David said to Achish, "But what have I done? What have you found in your servant during the time I've been with you that disqualifies me from going and fighting against the enemies of my lord the king?" Achish answered David, "I know that you are as good from my point of view as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the chiefs of the Plishtim have said, he is not to go up with us to the battlefield. So get up early in the morning with the servants of your Lord who came with you, and as soon as you are up and it gets light, leave." David got up early in the morning, he and his men, to leave and go back into the land of the Plishtim, while the Plishtim continued up to Yisrael. 3 days later, when David and his men arrived in Ziklag, they found that the Amaleki had raided the Negev and Ziklag. They had sacked Ziklag and burned it down, and they had taken the captive the women and everyone there, great and small. They hadn't killed anyone, but had carried them off as they went on their way. So when David and his men arrived at the city, there it was, burned down, with their wives, sons, and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people with him cried aloud, until they had no more power to cry. David's two wives had been taken captive, Ahinoam from Yisrael, Jezreel, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. David was in serious trouble. The people were talking about stoning him to death because all the people were in such deep grief, each man over his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in Adonai his God. David said to Abiathar, the Kohen, the priest, the son of Ahimelech, please bring the ritual vest, the ephod. Interesting that the complete Jewish Bible just describes it instead of specifically naming it. Please bring the ritual vest here to me. Abiathar brought the vest to David. Then David consulted Adonai. He asked, should I go in pursuit of these raiders? Will I catch up with them? And Adonai answered him, go in pursuit, because you will overtake them and recover everyone and everything. So David went, he and the 600 men with him. They came to Wadi Besor, where those who were to stay behind waited. Then David continued in pursuit with 400 men, while 200, too exhausted to cross Wadi Besor, stayed behind. They found an Egyptian in the countryside and brought him to David. They gave him some bread to eat and water to drink. They also gave him a lump of dried figs and 2 bunches of raisins. After eating, he revived, because he hadn't eaten anything or drunk any water for 3 days and nights. David asked him, to whom do you belong, and where are you from? He answered, I'm an Egyptian boy, the slave of an Amalekite. My master abandoned me 3 days ago because I got sick. We raided the Negev of the Cherethites, the Negev of Judah, and the Negev of Caleb, and we burned down Ziklag. David asked him, will you lead me down to this raiding party? He said, if you will swear by God to me that you won't kill me or hand me back to my master, I will lead you down to the raiders. He led them down, and there they were, spread out over all the ground, eating, drinking, and celebrating how much spoil they had taken from the territory of the Plishtim and the territory of Yehudah. David attacked them from dawn until the evening of the next day. Not one of them escaped except for 400 young men who jumped on camels and got away. David recovered all that the Amalekite had taken. He also rescued his 2 wives. They found nothing missing, big or little, not sons, not daughters, not plundered goods, or anything else they had taken. David brought it all back. David took all the flocks and herds and drove them ahead of their own livestock, announcing, this is David's spoil. David came to where the 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow him. Let's try that again. David came to where the 200 men were who had been too exhausted to follow him. whom they had let stay at Vadai Bosor. They came out to meet David and the people with him. When David approached them, he greeted them. But some of the men who had gone with David were evil men, scoundrels, and they said, "They didn't go with us, so we're not giving them any of the property we've recovered. Each man can take his wife and children and leave." Then David said, "No, my brothers, don't do this with the goods Adonai has given us. He protected us and he handed the raiding party over to us. Anyhow, no one agrees with you about this. No, the share of someone who stays with the equipment will be the same as the share of someone who goes out and fights. They will share equally. It has been that way from that day on. He established it as a ruling for Israel to this day. When David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the leaders of Yehuda who were with his friends with a note. "Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Adonai." He sent such gifts to those in Bethel, Bethlehem, Bethel, to those in Ramah, to those in Yatir, to those in Erer, to those in Sifmoth, to those in Eshtmoa, to those in Raquel, to those in Yerachmeli, the Yerahmeelites, to those in the cities of the Kenites, to those in Hormah, to those in Borashan, to those in Attak, to those in Hebron, and to all the places where David and his men had frequently visited. Now the Plishtim pressed their attack on Israel. The men of Israel fled before the Plishtim, leaving their dead on Mount Gilboa. The Plishtim pursued and overtook Shaul and his sons, and the Plishtim killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, the sons of Shaul. The fighting went hard against Shaul. Then the archers overtook and wounded him, so that he was in agony. Shaul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and run me through with it. Otherwise, these uncircumcised men will come, run me through, and make sport of me." But his armor-bearer refused. He was too frightened. So Shaul took his sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Shaul was dead, he too fell on his own sword and died with him. Thus Shaul, his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and all his men died that same day together. When the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley, and those who were on the far side of the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel had fled, and that Shaul and his sons were dead, they abandoned the cities and fled. Then the Plishtim came and lived in them. The following day, when the Plishtim came to strip the dead, they found Shaul and his 3 sons lying dead on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head, stripped off his armor, and sent these all over the territory of the Plishtim to carry the news to the temples of their idols and to the people. Then they put his armor in the temple for the Ashtaroth, the Astarte, their idol, and fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. When the people living in Jabesh Gilead, heard what the Plishtim had done to Shaul, all their warriors set out, traveling all night. They took the body of Shaul and the bodies of his sons off the wall of Bethshan, returned to Jabesh, and burned them there. Then they took their bones, buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days. And with that, friends, we have now completed 1 Samuel. Which we started, wow, on the 18th of December. I didn't realize it's been that long. It's a big book. So that makes sense. And here we are, the 21st of March. So 94 days in reading this book. And you see we're 10 books in. Lamentations, Romans, Ecclesiasticus, First Kings, James, Esther, Baruch, Galatians, Proverbs, and First Samuel. That's what we've read. We continue reading Job and Luke, and something else will be taking the place of First Samuel. Blessings on your day. And as this day is the Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom. Peace be with you.